Well, welcome back, Mr. and Mrs. Coinaholics of all ages. I hope each and every single one of you is doing well. Well, you're here for a reason, and we're going to be talking about some reported sales from eBay on some of your favorite errors and varieties. This is everybody's favorite report every week. I'm glad to do it twice. I'm not doing any more. These things take a lot of time and energy out of my day to do. But I'm glad to be able to upload these because we get so much great feedback from these. For the most part, generally very positive. And I think the big reason why is it gives a lot of you some insight as to how much these coins are worth that we're finding and pulling out of circulation. That's important, right? You want to make sure that what you're doing and all this stuff that I'm talking about is certainly worth the effort. Now, the coins that we're going to highlight for you today, along with some paper money, are some of the best finds that people are looking for. All right, these generally highlight some of the more important errors and varieties, RPMs, doubled dies that you have to look out for because they have the most equity out in the coin market today. The best part is, and you hear me talk about this each and every single episode, you don't have to grade them. Errors and varieties carve out its own little niche in this numismatics market to where collectors, as long as it's attributed correctly, they will pay whatever the market value is for the coin. Grading, not necessary, because as you guys know, you're going to have to spend anywhere from $30 to $60 per coin to grade out some of these errors and varieties. Errors especially is very expensive if you're using like NGC or PCGS. So I would highly encourage you to double check realized sales first and foremost before you decide to ship these things off to a grading company. Again, may not be necessary, and that pretty much goes for about 99% of all the coins out there. We've even witnessed 1955 double die Lincoln cents and three-legged buffalo nickels that have sold raw on this very report and have, I would say, realized the full potential of what they could earn. Another thing before we jump into the activity for the last 24 hours, the photos. The photos are going to be important when you go to sell these on eBay. All right, I can't stress that enough. You're going to see the best and the worst photos from all of these realized sales. You're probably going to end up getting a little bit of a photography lesson somewhere down the line. Usually I'll point out one or two things that you guys need to be aware of. But, you know, at the end of the day, you don't have to be a professional photographer when you're out snapping photos of your coins. It just has to look good. If it looks good to your eyes and they're not out of focus or too dark or too bright, then you're going to be in good shape. The best policy that I always tell folks, take it outside. Natural light wins the day when it comes to photographing these coins. So if you have like a notebook or something like that you could hold in your hand while you're taking photos with your smartphone, as long as you're outside and as long as it's not raining or anything like that, then you're going to probably get the best photos. And let the camera do all the dirty work for your focusing and your zooming. Most smartphones these days, you can zoom up close. As long as it's crisp and clear, then you're good to go. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right in, featuring the best of the coins that are found in circulation or by cherry picking local coin shops or going to the show. Let's do it. Again, everything is from about the last 24 hours. We have a couple dozen items to talk about. First one here, I figure I'd just throw this one in here because it's an attractive looking coin, but not a rare date either, for off-center struck coins. So this one here is a 2000p. These were typically found in mid-sewn bags from the Fed Reserve Bank back in the day. They don't do the mid-sewn bags anymore. Generally, the coins are processed through contracted, like armored car companies and sorting facilities directly from the Fed Reserve Bank, and that's how they end up in Loomis rolls and NF String and Sons and all that stuff. So the likelihood that you'll find some of these days is a little bit tough. Plus, the Mint had also cleaned up their act a little bit. You don't see too many off-centered I guess, ultra modern dates, you know, anything from like 2009 or 2010 all the way up to the current date that we're in right now. You just don't see them that much. So this is a very minor off-center strike. It still managed to sell for $18. Just be aware that there are coin shops that sell these particular dates. I had one guy about a month ago that I visited, and he had a few of these for $5 a piece. Guess what I did? I bought them all because I knew that they sold for a lot more than that. So if you come across little deals like that, that's how you can enhance your experience reselling of one of our favorite collectibles. So very cool. We only had one Extra V 2023 Lincoln cent that sold in the last 24 hours, and that's this one right here. This one sold earlier today. We're still around that $50 to $75 valuation range here for these coins. This one right here is actually in really nice shape. And as time goes on, the interest will begin to dwindle because the folks that really wanted these had already gotten it. In addition, it's also worth mentioning that they probably also bought it at the at the most desirable grade states, because you're always going to find these in the best shape when they first come out. So as time goes on, the ones that you do discover out in circulation are going to be pretty well worn and circulated, and they're not going to have nearly as much secondary market value. So in case you guys are wondering, yeah, there's that little V anomaly next to Victor David Brenner's initials. That's been quite the talk of the town here in 2023. These things had spiked up to about $150 after the news broke that this was a recognized variety of sorts through a couple grading companies, and that's all due to Mike Diamond's findings. He had talked about this coin in a report to Coin World magazine that kind of highlights things, and that's the big reason why companies like Annex and NGC and all that are attributing these as the Extra V coin. So this one sold for $55.25. Still a strong amount of money, but keep in mind a lot of where the value is on these, unfortunately, is in graded examples. And I say unfortunately because there's a huge disparity between what raw, brilliant, uncirculated coins are like this one to what people are asking for the graded examples that could kind of start at like $250 and then go up from there. All right, so you definitely have to kind of pick your poison, kind of manage it. If you want to buy these on the secondary market, as long as they look good, then you could grade them and then flip the coins again on the secondary market, and that's where you're going to realize the full potential of these. So again, they're still being found out there. Look for them. They still have a fair amount of value. This one right here, a pretty neat coin. I think me personally, I only own like two of these, One I found in circulation, another one I found at a coin shop, for a reasonable amount of money. It's a Lincoln Memorial cent that was struck through a later stage capped die. The capped die is just another coin that was stuck onto the hammer die, which holds the obverse design of the coin, which is the Lincoln cent side, or the Lincoln bust side of the coin. So the coin is stuck to the die. It doesn't dislodge. It'll continue to crank out other strikes of these coins. And, as this die cap, after the pressure of the strikes, will begin to kind of enlarge the cap, the coin, to a point where the reverse design is going to be completely obliterated. So it's going to get thin enough to where you're going to be able to see the strike through of the original die design going through that thin cap and onto the coins. And that's, for the most part, why you could see a partial bust outline here of Lincoln, is because it's a later stage. All right. So this one right here is sold for $37. It looks like it's a copper-coated zinc-in. If this was just a copper generation pre-1982 coin, the coin would probably be worth around $50-$60. All right, there's the tale of two generations here with these things. Pretty neat one here. 1940S is actually a very desired date to just look through. The date itself is not desired for any other reason other than maybe a top pop registry set coin, or if we're looking for some of these either retain cuds or full-on cuds. Like this one here, you have a pretty sizable cud on the reverse. It's like a cud, retain cud combo, because you could see the crack kind of go through the wreath here, or the wheat stalk, and then it balloons out into what looks to be a regular cud. It could very well be a retained cud as well, because you have a partial design layout here of the wheat stalk edge. But very, very convincing, very nice looking error. This one ended up selling for $28.64. Considering the actual condition of the coin, which has a few nicks and scratches, it's got some edge bumps. It's going to sell for a little bit less than, say, one that doesn't have all those issues. And speaking of issues, oh man, do not cast these aside, because they look like they came out of the ground. This 1866 Indian head cent would be actually a really good looking coin if it wasn't for the fact that it spent some time in the ground, as all the acidity of the soil had gotten to it. And that's why you have this really massively pitted obverse and reverse of this coin. But check that reverse out. You'll see a really nice sized cud. This thing is all billowed out here. At about K4 on the positioning of the reverse. Even still, again, guys, hold on to these. Don't spend them. If you're looking through bulk Indian head cents at your coin shop and you came across this, you're like, oh man, that looks terrible. Don't. Buy it for $1 and then resell it. This one sold for $40.99. If you could get this thing for a super low fraction of what the actual value is, I mean, it is going to be a home run hitter. All right, so here's, I suppose, the first photography lesson. All right, so it's a 1999 Lincoln Memorial Cent. This is actually a very pretty looking coin. As you can see, the photos are not completely full. It's kind of clipped in a few areas. And this is kind of the end result of taking photos of your coin using a microscope, like a USB style microscope. You're not going to be able to take the full obverse or reverse picture of the coin because you have limitations on how far out you could zoom out on it. But this is a very well-known variety. It's one of the most scarcer varieties for the 90s, and it's the wide AM reverse 1999p. Now you guys know they make these also in 98 and 2000, but those two dates are very common to find, and they're generally worth no more than about $5-10 in today's market. However, 1999 is the more tougher date to find, and if you're able to find one that is generally problem-free, which I'd like to think that this one is here, then you're going to have a coin that is going to sell for a considerable sum of cash. In the case of this coin, it sold for $140. And I'm going to tell you how important that is. A lot of the wide AM 99s that people are encountering today going through pocket change, they are in pretty bad shape. They're either stained, they're well circulated with nicks, maybe the good old zinc rot got to them, and they're beginning to fall apart. So those are just a few things that go on. Yes, the coin is 24 years old, which kind of plays into the attrition factor of these things, but there's no denying a really nice specimen like this one will command a lot of money every single time. Here's a coin that's been long forgotten. I would say for about 6 to 9 months. Yeah, the first year of the American Women Quarters was beloved by a lot of people, but at the same time, before it was released, people cast this series aside. They're like, oh, I don't want another multi-year set. I'm not a fan of the obverse with that, that George Washington profile, which, by the way, was designed by a female, one of the well-known female sculptors back in the day. So this definitely requires a lot more respect, and it sure has gotten that. But, through diligent searching, there have been 4 well-known double-to-die reverses on this that have been found. And right from the get-go, as soon as these were discovered, they were selling really well. The couple more scarcer types, the DDR number 3 and number 4, got up to about 50-60 bucks a pop. All right. And this coin that you see here in front of you is actually in really nice shape. You know, it's probably mid-state, I would say. But this is the VDDR number 4. So you can see a little bit of a double the die of the earring here. So this one has a considerable amount of distance or spread away from the actual earring that sits on her earlobe. And this is, as of right now, the scarcest out of the 4 known Dr. Wiles varieties. This one is attributed, by the way, on Variety Vista. That's Dr. Wiles' website. So this one right here ended up selling for a measly $20, showing just how far, you know, certain varieties and errors, you know, have come 1 year after release. Again, you know, things like the Extra V Lincoln scent that people are finding today, and a few others. Keep in mind, a year from now, they're not going to be worth nearly as much as they are in the current present time, because everybody is focused on the new stuff. All right, they're not going to dwell around and you know, wait for a coin that is already a year or 2 old, you know, to go up in value. All right, these things do drop because the people that want them had already obtained them. So $20, still not too bad, but you know, again, it is a precipitous fall from grace for a variety that not too many of them did exist. A really cool one here, man. I have not found one of these, and it's high on my bucket list of coins that I do want to find out of circulation. 1975D Jefferson nickel. This is what they refer to as the high misplaced mint mark. This one sits nestled between the 5 and Jefferson's little bow on his ponytail. This one is way too far north of where it should sit on the actual crevice of that coin in that little clearing there. There were well-known pieces of this that were sold online through Heritage. I believe they sold Dr. Weinberg's example, ended up selling for about $1,000. It was graded and all. It was really cool. But raw examples, yeah, these will still sell for a decent amount of money. This one sold for $300.25 with 2 bids. One of the big chasers today in the Jefferson nickel series, even beating out a lot of the key dates and all that great stuff. Look out for this, because this is one that most people, I'd like to say, know a fair amount of information of, but I can't help but also know that this is probably not as well known as people think it is. Not a pretty looking steel scent here, but this 1943 is another great one to look out for. Again, we prefaced the retain cud cracks that you could find on a lot of the earlier Lincoln wheat scents. Here's yet again another one on this one, but you'll see that it's got some corrosion, some rust on there. And here you go. This is that die crack. As long as it enters in one spot on the rim, you could follow it through the design, and then it exits out the other side of the rim. Then you could effectively call it a pre-cud or a retain cud, but it also helps to see some shift, some displacement in the actual bust. You could see a little bit of that on this side here, because the image just looks a little bit more crisp on that side. This one sold for $18. So even in this condition, they have still quite a bit of value. All right, so even if they're would I consider this far gone? Probably, because it's got rust, and that's, you know, it eats at the coin forever, all right, till the thing is gone. But today, they have collectability that, you know, they're worth paying money for. Unfortunately, the next couple of listings are all extremely acid-dated or acid-dipped Buffalo nickels. Just consider that every single one of the coins you're going to see here in the next few slides didn't have a readable date. So we're going to start out with the 1917S Buffalo nickel. And they're all 2-feather variety variants. So this one, as you can see, the over-abraded die issue that caused the 3rd feather, which is generally right here, to make a disappearing act, essentially. And you know, unless you don't acid date these or anything like that, you're never going to know what the date of the coins are. And there are a few dates that are more scarce than others with the two feather anomaly. This one right here still sold for $23.75 with 13 bids. And another good sale here, excuse me, is 1918S, another earlier date, tough date too. Another two feather buffalo, but you could see that this one was also dipped in acid as well to bring up the old devices and the date. This one right here sold for $20.51 with 5 bids. To kind of break up things here, I threw in this 1922 Lincoln wheat cent. This is the acclaimed Chase key date. That's missing the Denver mint mark, so they refer this to the 1922 plain no mint mark. But every single 22 was produced at the Denver mint facility. So consider it like a clogged die issue or what have you. That's what happened. This one is paired up with a decent looking reverse. I'm going to say it's a strong reverse. They do get pretty weak, and they used 4 different die pairings for this date. Without the Denver mint mark. So do read up on that so that way you know what reverse it has. But the strong, well-struck reverse is going to have the most amount of value. So here's how crazy this coin is. Even in this low condition, it sold for $717.95. Again, folks, not graded. All right, it'd be safe to buy one graded. But as far as selling it, you could probably get away from with selling it as it sits. And then finally, here's our other acid-dipped Buffalo Nickel. This is a 1919D. Again, another two feather variant here. This one sold for $27.95 with 13 bids. All right, so we're going to speed things up from here, as a lot of these are pretty self-explanatory. Here's yet again another 2023 Lincoln Shield cent with what looks to be a strike-through right on the back of Lincoln's head and neck area. Pretty nice one. You can see what it looks like here, not as zoomed in, and then that's what it looks like zoomed in a lot closer. And then sometimes you'll also see some of the strike through in his throat area, as it is a feeder finger issue is what causes this. So this one right here sold for $23.95. Again, another coin to be on the lookout for. There's bound to be a whole lot more of this one. Nice off-center Roosevelt dime, probably about 65% off-center. Very nice high-grade specimen, although it does not have a full date. This one sold for $36.38. Not too bad, considering that the date generally makes the value of these coins. And Cuds are indeed king, and we talked about a few of them here in this video. This is a 1970s decade Lincoln, probably 73, where are we? 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, because they all have that same 7 style. So, you know, it could probably go all the way up to 79. Can't really tell what date it would be specifically, but yeah, check out that cut die break. Piece of the die had cracked, fractured, and fallen out, leaving an empty cavity in that obverse die. So when these strike up with the pressure, the metal flow goes into the empty cavity, thereby creating a raised anomaly. But you could also see the weakness on the reverse as well in that same designated area. This one, ladies and gentlemen, sold for $60.95 with 4 bids. These things are on fire right now. Through the summer, I think there's been a few more collectors that have entered the market. If you have Cuds and you don't necessarily need them in your collection, now might be a good time to offload them. Not saying that they'll slow down at all, because these have incredible staying power. Well, we didn't have a whole lot to offer in the paper money world this week, but here's a 1988 $5 bill with a couple of really nice looking gutter folds. So the actual subject sheet had a wrinkle in it, and it was printed over, especially on the front of the note there. But when you stretch out the paper, you'll get a gutter, which is a inkless, unprinted area, usually a strip or a channel like this, or a gutter. Kind of makes sense there, right? The note has actually been well worn, crazy as it seems. But yeah, this thing did not get discovered early on when it was in much nicer shape. It went about its paces in commerce. This one sold for $40.48 with 2 bids. Gutter folds are typically referred to as kind of like the bottom 10% of the error world. They're common to find if you're looking for them. And they usually sell for the least amount of money, but I wouldn't give them up for the world. There was a few of these crown die chips. We're all too familiar with these. Could only be found on 2021P, Washington crossing the Delawares. But they have a nice size crown die chip on the top of Washington's hat on the reverse. This is a kind of like a mid-state version of a full crown. We do have a full crown coming up, by the way. However, it did sell for $30.09. So not completely worthless. These things used to sell for a lot more back when they were discovered. And again, it's a matter of people that wanted these, they did obtain them, and they just don't have a use for buying anymore. So that's going to negatively affect the value of them over the long term. Big dollar coins with any sort of error is just going to be crazy. 1971D Ike dollar with just a sheet clip. It's got just a good old basic rim clip on there next to the date. This one sold for $38 with 14 bids. So, yeah, if you find one that's similar to this, keep in mind they're worth a lot more than just the face value. Here's our other crown die chip, 2020. This is kind of like the latest advanced stage of this anomaly. And it sold for $38.25 with 14 bids. Yeah, these things are currently having problems reaching that $50 bill mark these days. But they do sell for still a good little chunk of change as well. So we saw the Lincoln cent earlier. Here's the Jefferson nickel equivalent of a coin that was struck through a later stage cap die. All right, so you have a general considerable amount of weakness on the obverse there. Again, that's par for the course, but you have that fully struck reverse on there. So this one sold for $75.15 as a best offer on a buy it now option. Pretty cool. I like this one. And this one that looks rather similar to the nickel is not a coin that was struck through a cap die. Some of the things you'll look for is that there is a nice well-struck Liberty right here. But for the most part, you have a lot of just of this anomalous kind of strike through, which this one was struck through a lot of grease and debris, and that's why it looks so irregular on there. Compared to a cap die, again, it's not fully 100% encompassing of the obverse. And this one has a few issues too. It's got a scraped up rear reverse rim here around the 12 o'clock position. So this one sold for $43.90. Good looking sale here. I would have taken that all day long. This wouldn't work for my collection because of its condition, but it's a good way to make some money if you do come across it. Another CUD on a brilliant uncirculated 1970S Lincoln Memorial Cent. This one's really pretty, and this seller had sold a few of these over the last week or two. And they all performed admirably. So you see that CUD there at the base of Lincoln's bust on this one. It sold for $62.99 with 3 bids. It used to be about 5 years ago that you couldn't even sniff this kind of money for a CUD of this size. Usually it would have to be a lot bigger, covering up like In God We Trust or Liberty or some elements on the reverse. Yeah, times have changed, and there has been a growing audience for these coins. So yeah, $63, not too bad. This might be our last piece of currency, but yeah, it's quite minor, and it's on a 2017 series $1 bill. So pretty recent by today's standards, but you can see this one has what they call a turn digit or gas pump digit. That last number in the serial number is a lot higher than all the other numbers. So the number wheel was stuck a little bit there. This one sold for $15.25. Again, it's a $1 bill. So when you could take a dollar bill and turn it into 15, I would say that's a pretty good magic trick there. Here's a 1960D. You should always be looking at this date anytime you come across it, going through roll hunts or whatever. But this is a very well-known repunched mint mark. This is RPM number 1. It's also referred to as FS502 in the Cherry Picker's Guide. The coin overall is in like AU condition shape, which is nice. It's a good collector grade. This one sold for $22.50 with 18 bids. And a few more listings here, folks. So here's how crazy 2023 Lincoln Cent rolls. In the pursuit of the extra V coins, these prices have been absolutely crazy. It's unheard of to see brand new Lincoln Cent boxes sell for what this one did, but there aren't too many boxes on the open market. So again, this is an area of opportunity, folks. If you can obtain some of these brand new bank boxes of 2023s, then you are going to be making just money hand over fist. But as you can see, these are Loomis rolls. It's a full $25 face value box, and it's sold for $115.51 with 20 total bids. Again, people are fanatics for this particular date and denomination of coin. And then finally, yeah, of course, we're going to end things off on another amazing cut die break. How about a 1978D with a nice little hamburger cut die break above Jefferson's head there. I mean, again, these things need no introduction. These are hot off the presses, and they sell just really, really well right now. The prices are, there's no other way to describe it other than just lofty. Is what it is. $52.50 with 6 bids. Again, 5 years ago, this was a $20, $25 coin. But there you go. That is everything in a nutshell today on the PCMR. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to today's content and video and channel if you haven't done so already. But I wish you guys the best of luck in all of your hunts. There are a ton of stuff to find out there and change and through coin shops and shows. So go ahead and get them and report back to me if you come across anything neat, because I would love to hear about some wins from my viewers. But that's it. You guys go get them. Have a great day. Enjoy the hobby and best of luck.